Joe's up my guy.
Mr. Patton.
Hey, you listening over there?
Tell me to make that happen. Sorry, I'm trying to get this thing going. What's going on?
Can you make sure that Jim has access to the board shared drive?
Yeah.
He may not have.
I know.
Say that's all I need. I got it right here.
He doesn't, that's why.
He doesn't have an email.
Would you rather it be your personal email or your school email? To have access to the board.
Oh, well, I don't mind personal. But I've got jim.combo too at morrisonschools.org up right now.
Okay, so if you go into your personal email, we'll just go into, you should have access to it now.
Okay. Well, the same one you sent us, I got it on my phone.
Yeah, I don't think anything's changed other than I added Ann.
Okay.
I'll make sure that it doesn't happen. I apologize. For those present, I guess I'll just explain the reason for the tabling. The original quote for $19,900 was calculated not using prevailing wage. In Illinois, for those of you that aren't aware, school districts are required to pay prevailing wage, which is whatever current union wages are. And so based on that, the updated estimate went up to $28,800, and the board has asked that we look for something maybe a little bit more cost effective. So we're going to table that for right now, not saying we're not going to do the project, just see if we can maybe find something a little cheaper. Like I said, it's $9,000, $10,000 increase. So that's why it's being tabled for tonight.
Okay. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item, approval of the previous minutes. This,
So moved.
okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. And this would be, did you just go through all three?
It'd be bills, building activity reports, and non-certified personnel recommendations.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question, the north side heating, is it really only $200 versus like the $4,000?
Which one?
It was,
Site heating.
I just saw the heating bill and it was just, it was just a question because it was so much lower than.
Yeah.
The rest were like 4,000, 6,000, the north side was 200. I'm like,
I
oh,
think the
not complaining.
north side is more electric.
oh, okay, okay, that makes sense.
Electric heat.
It's split.
Those-
They're kind of spread out by percentage,
Sure,
and I don't know where the percents ever came from. but-
yeah, no, it was just something I noticed that was funny.
I would just say this for the board members and anyone who reads the bills when they're posted, don't try and make rhyme or reason them up. It's, there'll be 5,000 one month, there'll be $5 the next month, so but that's a good question.
You should probably read the hires are.
Yes, okay, and so for the hires, we have for concession managers at Morrison High School, Leaning Housing Gay and Jenna Weeds. Did I do a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so roll call?
Hewelson,
Yes.
Trumbull,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Samhoff,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes. Okay, communication, public comments.
Nobody signed up?
Nope, okay. Good news for Run the District.
It's field trip season at Northside, so Second grade visited Southside on Friday to get a tour of the building, see what they're walking into next year. It was about split 50-50 of those who are excited to go to Southside and those who are now it's sinking in that they're leaving the building. Kindergarten is going fishing tomorrow. Preschool is going to the zoo on Friday. And
Where are they going?
to Rockwoods, but I told
Stay away
them,
from the boat dock.
I already told them, we can talk about that. Something I did want to point out, first grade went to Skate City and Millennium Park in the Quad Cities, Moline, East Moline. While they were at Skate City, it was not included in the quote. A lot of the kids had to use the little, almost looks like a walker with wheels on it to help them learn to skate. That was not included in the quote. And a parent stepped in and rented every one that they had there for $100. So all the kids that needed one could use one. I don't want to say the parent's name. I don't know if they want people to know or not, but a parent paid for all the kids
That's
that needed a
wonderful.
walker to.
That's wonderful.
Did they rent a walker?
Yeah, once they got there, they said that wasn't included. And so the parents stepped in and said, I'll just rent everyone that you have.
I'd never heard of that.
Right before you were gonna do that, right?
Right.
You needed the water.
You have Mr. Morgan's, he will be leaving us here shortly. I just would point out that he did at a personal note that he wanted to thank the board for giving him the opportunity. And we certainly thank Mr. Morgan for his service, and he stepped in and did a fantastic job. And could not have asked for a better interim, given the circumstances. So best of luck to Mr. Morgan once he concludes with us. Mr. Robbins.
We had 4 student athletes who qualified for the IDSA 3A state track meets. We had 3 long jumpers, and Ella Mellons, 8th grade, Gabe Dykhuizen, 7th grade, and Kenley White, 7th grade, are all going in the long jump. And Jackson Yaklich will be participating in the 800. So the 3 jumpers will jump on Friday, and Jackson will run on Saturday. So very excited for them, very proud of them, and all their hard work both in the classroom and on the track.
Nothing additional to add.
Okay. Reports, finance, facility, and enrollment.
So we are going to reschedule the Finance and Facility Committee meeting to a different date, but I'll give an update on what's going on. Light project is continuing around the district. Completed at Northside. I think they're finishing up at Southside, and then we'll be moving into, finishing up at the junior high, and then moving into Southside and the high school. There have been some questions about the track. The track process is going through. It is out of our hands. We are trying to get the powers that be that are in charge of finishing the drawings and the bidding process moving with that. But as we know, in a post-COVID world, everything moves very, very slowly. We are on pace to start the HVAC project at the junior high and north side as soon as the school year is over. I have been in a couple of those rooms, and it's not a second too soon, so we're hopeful that will be completed prior to the start of school next year. As far as enrollment goes, we were just
So close.
so close. We are now back under 1,000 kids at 997. So regardless, it's still better off than we were a year ago. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay. Old business. The high school athletic conference invitation action item.
So we'll do a motion, and then we will continue the discussion if there is any prior to taking a vote. And I would recommend that this be a roll call vote and not just a all in favor. So the motion is that the Board of Education approves the invitation from the Northwest Upstate Illini Conference for Morrison High School to join said conference beginning with the 24-25 school year.
Okay, I need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second. Discussion.
We talked about this last time.
I would say I have been approached by some alumni and rabid Morrison Mustang fans, and they all seem to be in favor of this. So
Good. Okay.
I haven't had anybody come to me and say it's a bad move.
Okay. Roll call.
Brumble,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Stanhope,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes. Tenure list.
Okay, so we're going to have a couple different action items here. So the first one is the motion of the Board of Education approves moving the following teacher from second year probationary status to third year probationary status at the conclusion of the 22-23 school year, and that is Ann Brackemeyer, who is a kindergarten teacher at Northside Elementary.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Stanhope,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Brumble,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take these individually, so we'll have three separate motions here. Well, you know what, we can do one motion, but we'll do one vote per staff member.
Okay.
Does that work for everyone?
Yep.
So the motion is the Board of Education grants tenure status to the following teachers at the end of the 22-23 school year. Emily Kirkland, fifth grade teacher at Southside Elementary, Annie Knee, EL English Language Arts teacher at Morrison High School, and Jennifer Streets, guidance counselor at Morrison High School.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call
For
for Emily Kirkland.
Stanhope,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Brumble,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes. Okay, roll call for Annie Knee.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Brumble,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Stanhope,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes. Roll call for Jennifer Streets.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Brumble,
No.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Stanhope,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes. Okay, and then item C is tabled. Moving to item D, the amended budget.
So every year, we do a budget, we approve a budget in September, and then beginning in May, we look at an amended budget. This is the preliminary one. It is not super pretty, but it's not super awful. We do have a discrepancy. We have a larger than anticipated, let's see if I can pull this up for everybody. Deficit in our ed fund here of 194,000. Our O&M is about where we expected it to be. It's roughly $250,000. The reason for the increase in our educational fund deficit is we have encountered costs that we didn't believe. We've had some special ed costs go up. We've had some tuition rises, those types of things. So this is a work in progress. This may look different than next year, depending on what bills come in. But overall, we're looking at a deficit of 194, which if you've been on the board for a while, that's a lot less than it has been in the years past. I think in the information I've shared with you, on average, it's about $300,000. So it's better than it has been, but it's certainly not where we want it to be. Questions about again, we're not voting on this tonight. This is just a informational item, and we'll have more information. We'll vote on this at the next, we have to approve this in June.
Remind me what that fund, is it Fund 51?
So 50 and 51 is your IMRF, your TRS, your social, it's all split
Okay,
out.
okay, that's what I thought it was.
So some districts will do like IMRF and Social Security and Medicare in one, others will split it out. We
Okay.
choose to split it out. I don't know why why we don't put the exact definition on there, but that's what that is. That's
Sure.
Social Security and Medicare.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Moving along to new business. Morrison High School Swimming Cooperative and Golf Team, discussion item.
So looking at participation versus costs, as well as we're coming to the point where we need to decide what we're going to do with the swimming cooperative, I felt it was time to open a public discussion on continuing the swimming cooperative as well as offering golf at the high school. Looking at numbers, it is at this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Milwell, we believe we have no current high school girls planning on participating in swimming. I know there's one from Erie that is interested in swimming. I don't know about Fulton.
That'd be about correct. We have 4 that would have been on last year's roster returning. Some of them are making reference to participating in another sport rather than swimming. Such and that's kind of hinging some of the others as far as coming out. So
I think it's a situation, if so-and-so goes out, I'll go out, but if they don't, I won't.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Has there been a informal sign up, or is it just in terms of come to the office and sign up, or is it?
Just something like that, just trying to putting announcements, you're interested in swimming.
And that's out,
session, swimming, that type of thing.
and that's out right now?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it was out, weeks ago, a couple weeks ago.
And we have nothing, nobody's.
And it's, yeah.
Now,
Very
have the eighth graders been
That was
able to
my
sign up for that, or?
The eighth graders have not heard from the eighth graders, unless Mr. Dolan's heard from the eighth graders.
So Mr. Robbins, can you make an announcement tomorrow and run it for the rest of the school year? Anyone interested, any girl interested in swimming needs to sign up. This is not a commitment, but we need to, and I would do that for golf too, please. And that's boys and girls. Because as far as golf goes, we have, from what in my conversations with Mr. Dolan, 3 possible returners. One has commented that they're going to play football, and so that would leave us with 2. I would just publicly say that if the board decides not to have a golf or swim team, that doesn't prevent people from participating. They could participate as individuals, in which case they would be supported by the district. It just means we would not have a quote-unquote paid coach for those sports.
And I asked you, about co-oping golf, and I didn't know a lot of the backstory of why that's a difficult thing.
So in order to co-op, there's a couple things that have to take, and if I get something wrong, Corey, please let me know. So in order to be eligible to co-op, you have to do it with a district that abuts your district. So for Morrison, that would be Riverdale, that would be West Carroll, that would be Milledgeville, Sterling, and P-Town, and maybe Erie. I think we touch Erie in some way. So you have to do that. That's the first step. The second, and probably the bigger concern for a lot of schools when they look at co-op, is you take the total enrollment of the 2 schools. So Morrison High School at roughly 300. If you add Provincetown, for example, not saying this, Jim, you guys are what, 225, 250, something like that?
At most.
Okay, so now you're looking at 500 plus kids, which would take you from, for some sports, a 1A team to possibly as high as a 3A team. And so because of that, co-oping is not always a viable option or an attractive option for schools. The other issue with co-ops is if it's basketball, for example, there's only 5 people playing. And so you could be a starter for your home school, but now that you're co-oping, and that cause issues with the parents and those types of things. So
Golfing and swimming, though, are very different from basketball.
yes. So why we do it for swimming is there's 1 class. So it doesn't matter. So if you look at, I think, Dixon High School, for example, Dixon has Dixon, Byron, Winnebago, it was Stillman Valley, all of those schools, because it's come one, come all. There's no class that, golf is different too because of the classification. So it's more likely that a co-op in those types of sports is a more feasible option than it would be something else. Now, at this late stage in the game, it's hard to get that ball rolling because you have to have numerous approvals and there's, I should say, deadlines and those types of things. So the question that will come before the board next month is, 1, to continue the swimming cooperative, in which case we would then have to submit that paperwork, and then 2, what's the best use of district funds in terms of golf? Is it to fund a team and pay the coach and then pay for transportation because we no longer have a course in town, so we're busing them to practice.
No, they're not driving themselves.
No, we bus them, we put them in a bus and we drive them there every day. So that's the unfortunate situation. Now, 2 years ago or 4 years ago, we had 30 kids out for golf. I remember one year, I think, Mr. Bidwell, you were still the football coach. We had more golfers than we did football players. So,
With the swimming co-op,
Yes.
and then, because Joe came back, the middle school has a strong swim team and there's a lot of kids coming. If we would postpone or change something for this year, can it be opened back up for the year?
so we reached out. So the reason we do, historically, participation from our female student athletes is higher in swimming than it is for the boys. So we've managed to maintain that co-op for the last several years. The boys swim team has no longer been funded because we didn't have enough kids to make a team. So for golf, for example, you score 4. You can play 5, but the top 4 scores win. With swimming, unless you have 4 people, you can't even have a relay. So it'll be an individual thing. So with the swimming, and here's the problem with what you're saying is, yes, and I'm not bad mouthing anybody, but we've heard in the past that we've got a lot of kids coming. And what they do from the junior high to when they get to high school, because there's a lot more options, there's a lot more different things, is not always the case. But to answer your question, yes, we can always revisit that. Sterling has agreed to hold our place in the co-op we're currently in, because as I said, it's come one, come all.
So
For swimming.
So are we doing boys? Are they still co-oping with Sterling?
We haven't made a final decision on that yet, because what we're being, well, we'll get into that, that's
Okay.
neither here nor there. But at this point, Sterling is leaving the door open for us to remain part of that co-op. Is that correct?
But
And the deadline for that
We
is
have good
not,
boys numbers, right, this year for swimming?
Boys swimming?
Yeah.
I don't think we have
No,
anybody.
we just had 2 going. over
Matt is
to
saying that we have a large group in the junior high,
Right.
and he's asking that if we don't do that, can we?
I guess I had heard that there were quite a few boys interested this year.
And from the junior high, there seems to be quite a bit, I think, because they're able to participate in many different sports and such. What we hear a lot at the high school is now they have to kind of choose, the basketball, wrestling, and swimming season. A lot of them, go in a different direction in swimming than they did in the high school, or excuse me, in the junior high.
Right.
So,
But if there are those few people, I mean, if they so choose, whether it be golf or swimming, can they participate on an individual level?
Yes.
I mean, if that's what they have that love for golf, that love for swimming, they can participate at that individual level. So we're not saying that you don't have this option, it's just, you really have to have the love for the sport, and you're gonna have to put a little bit more on your own time.
So they would transport themselves and they would, school would pay their grade fees then, or, yes, they would.
And right uniform, like if we needed like a polo or something.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
So in the past, we have done cross-country on an individual basis. We've done tennis.
we did tennis for a year, then ended up with Marcus Sterling.
Yeah.
As long as there's still, if somebody has the desire and the love for the sport, as long as there's still that option for them to work through that.
Or they're going to say,
Or-
Right. Okay, anything else?
Sports hard to adjust.
Okay, moving on, item C, the Morrison High School fee.
got me.
I'm sorry, approval of post-prom fundraiser, action item.
So I'll go ahead and read the motion, and then have a discussion about that. So the motion is the Board of Education approves the post-prom fundraiser as presented.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
They would like to auction off the golf cart.
Oh,
But a new fundraising policy is it needs board approval.
okay. That was the same as this year? We did that, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to C, Morrison High School fee additions.
So there are two things for discussion. The first one would be the athletic fee. I think in your board packet, there's a letter from Mr. Dolan where he would like to begin a discussion of, instead of a 3-tiered fee structure for extracurriculars, it would be one flat fee. And the number that he is proposing is $300. And looking at numbers from this year, I can pull it up here for just a second.
Let's see, what packet.
It should be, I didn't add it.
Yeah, it
It was in the finance.
wasn't in the finance, I feel like I saw it somewhere.
I thought it was at the
It's in
end.
one of the packets, I left my packet.
So here, I will,
Because right now it's what,
175 at the high school.
First sport.
For the first sport, 150 for the second, or 100 for the second sport, and then it's $50 for the third sport. Junior high is 75, 50, 25.
Yes, where I saw it.
I know it's
Not,
in
I wonder if it's in the other,
It's in the other, I
the
think it's
P
the one
wonders.
that's.
So here, I am going to. So if everyone checks their email, it should be shared with you now.
I don't know, who else? All right,
I'm keeping an eye on you.
we'll talk after.
Are you talking about the activity piece?
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's shared with us, so.
Yes. You had, I feel like you also sent a breakdown of,
There was stuff in our financial packet.
That's,
oh,
that's
that's
where I
what
saw it.
Yeah.
I ran the numbers and for whatever reason, I cannot find it.
It's okay.
You said, it's in there, I got that.
But I did some more. I did
Oh, okay.
some updated, no, I did it today.
Okay,
Um,
well, it's just for discussion for now.
Right. Why can't I find it? Just did it. Essentially, what the numbers were is it would bring about it would be almost $10,000 more in revenue if we went to a flat 300. I believe we had 141 students at the high school who participated in at least one sport. We had 86 in 2 and 26 that did 3. So we're looking at roughly, what did I say that was? It would be roughly $10,000 more.
Do we have a policy in place for families that can't afford that? Is there a way?
So there's a fee waiver that they can apply for. The difference between a fee waiver for athletics and extracurricular versus registration and book fees is we can ask for proof of income.
Okay.
So they would bring that in, we would ask for proof of, actually, Luann could probably walk you through that better than I can.
But just as long as we have something
Yes.
in place, that's all.
Yes, and we have a $500 family cap,
Okay.
which is much different than
yeah.
the way it was. So if you look at.
This flat fee would only be for the high school too, right?
Correct. So if at your table, there's two, if you want to look at these.
Yeah.
So the second one, there's junior high and high school. So you can see, I did, from 2015, we were charging, we were $275, $150, and $75. We've since moved that down to the $175, $150. So there you can see what other districts in our area are doing. I will be honest, I don't know how they're affording this.
Other than
We lose
size.
$140,000 a year, or the revenue versus cost is about $140,000 a year difference. To not charge something, I don't understand how they do that, and we don't overpay our coaches.
I didn't realize we were once at 275.
There's 275, 150, and 50.
Well, I mean, do they have more kids going out for sports than we do?
That's possibly.
No, we only charge sports, we don't charge like.
So band choir is not included in it, there's a fee for that too,
There is.
but it's not
Okay.
to the length of that, or not to the extent that that is.
I think this is something that we need to discuss, in my opinion. If it doesn't, if one person only goes out for a spring sport, say baseball or softball or track, it still costs the same amount per person, even though they play a sport in the fall and the winter. And if you still just person, I personally don't see that as the right way, the right approach. If you're playing 3 sports, you should pay 3 times as much.
Right.
Playing 1 sport, you should play 1/3 as much.
So the $300 would be two sports. 175, and that'd be 275 for two sports. So you're getting a third sport for free.
Well, yeah.
But-
Well, not for
You
free,
say
but
25
50
bucks.
for free.
You
Yes,
say
thank you.
25 bucks.
Yes.
You're getting,
You must be a math teacher.
you're saving that compared to what we do now, but what I'm saying is even, I don't necessarily would agree with our approach that we have now. If every sport has its own cost, and it doesn't go down with the more sports you participate in.
Well, I guess, is the twofold part of the fee also to increase participation in other sports? Which would it get more people to do a third? Or is it, more money making?
I can't imagine it, that being maybe it's the deciding factor for some, maybe it is.
Right.
I don't know.
It depends on what your ultimate goals are. Are you trying to cut the deficit, or are you trying to get kids to participate?
Yes,
Exactly, right.
And so,
yes and yes.
if I'm, not everybody can afford $300.
I know.
$300 is a lot.
It
So
is.
I can tell my kid, hey, you can go out for one sport because it's only costing me $175, but $300, we just have the money right now.
The other benefit, and I know this is a much longer and more thorough in-depth discussion, would be a one-time fee is much easier to collect than 3 individual fees. As you try and get people, to be on time with their fees, it's much easier to do it one time than it is to continue to track down people for multiple sports. Again, that's not a deciding factor, and it's an unintended consequence of this.
Yeah, but they
McDonald's
can't-
buy 3 cheeseburgers, they're gonna charge
I don't know what the policy is.
3 times as much.
You can't play till you pay, right? And you can't practice till you play?
Yes.
Right.
That's the idea.
Okay, so, they gotta turn it in before they can play, or practice. So, if they want to play and practice, they'll get it turned in.
I know we're a small district, but I'm still thinking the cost, $300 is not a lot. I'm talking about in regards to sports. If you look at traveling teams and the cost that goes into it, I'm sorry, but $300 is not that expensive. If you're truly involved in those sports, and if you're able to.
But do you want to pay $300 on the bench?
I don't think most kids sit
Brett,
on the bench.
you got anything for this?
Not right now.
Okay. So my kids play tournament baseball,
Okay,
okay, and they don't play, they tournament swimming, if you want to call it, what, club swimming.
right.
But, it's pricey.
I know it is.
We do it anyways because
Yeah.
they get in the pool and they get to swim.
Yes.
It's an individual race. But if my kid were to play baseball, and the first year they sat a lot, and we paid over $1,000. And we were ticked, so we left. Coach couldn't figure out why. Well, you're not playing, so we're leaving. So we found a team where they played almost every inning and batted every game, and so it's worth it. It was worth the money. We did a lot of fundraising. But if you want to have 5 players on that basketball court, and you want to have the 5 players to practice against, and they're all paying $300. If my son's the 10th player,
No, I got what you're saying. I got
and
what
it's
you're
hard to
saying.
justify $300.
Very good perspective,
You know?
I didn't think about it that way.
So-
And maybe what we can say is if they're playing, and maybe we should discuss this at a
Yeah, well, but no, let's,
table it and then discuss.
Well,
this.
there's
it's a
no
discussion
vote.
item.
Because I'm thinking maybe if they're just playing one sport, maybe it should be separate. It shouldn't be just $300. If they're just gonna play one sport, but if they're gonna play at least 2 or more sports, then maybe it's.
Well, you could do 200 for the first sport and 100 for,
we have a tier system right now.
yeah, but we do 3. You go to a 2, and you could raise the cost in the first one, and then.
I get that you want to encourage them to participate. You want more participation, but I don't know if charging them $300 is going to do it.
I'm curious if there was a lot of pushback, almost 10 years ago when it was close to that fee.
Yeah.
It originally was,
Okay, so why did you change it then?
because it was so grossly out of whack with everybody else, and we felt as though it was probably hurting participation.
Okay, all right.
Now, we were also, 10 years ago, well over 1,000
Yeah,
kids in the district.
That's true.
Right.
Okay.
It was very rough for the first couple years. You get some people, I paid $275, my kid deserves to play.
And that's kind of, I heard, yeah, that would be.
And we still get some of that.
Well, you pay to be on the team.
Yeah.
You don't pay to play. I mean, I coach high school softball and you pay to be part of the team and you get the reps in and
Then you earn your spot from there.
and you earn your spot from there. That's only fair. But I'm just saying, if you know you're gonna be the 10th player, parents may say, hey, you know what, let's find something else for you. Maybe not play on the team and go play in some tournaments.
Yeah.
Because they can do that in softball,
I know. Well,
and they know they'll get playing time that way.
that's a tough one.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
very
whatever
good.
money's involved in stuff.
I'm glad it's a discussion item.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the good news is that we can discuss it again next month. We don't have to take action until,
Yeah.
prior to the start of the school year. So the other side to this was a recommendation or a suggestion from Mr. Bielma, evolving out of a situation that's been around for a while, but kind of came to a head earlier this year. We ask a lot of fundraisers, different groups, different clubs, those types of things, to do fundraisers to help offset costs for a wide variety of things. So Mr. Bielma brought up the idea of possibly charging at the high school an activity fee or, I'm sorry, Mr. Corey, what did you call it? Did you call it activity?
Just like a class dues.
Class dues. And that would roughly bring in, I forgot, I don't have the calculation off the top of my head. I had, so I think the number was 35. And if you have 75 kids in a class, that's $2,600. The downside to that is if you look at the other part of that sheet is our fees are rather high. They're not, I don't think they're high. They're higher than other people.
Yeah.
And again, I question where's their money coming from, because Mr. Harridge, can you give me that figure, please, as to what it costs per day at Northside for a kid to come to school?
42 cents.
42 cents a day. It's less than $1 a day at the high school, but if you're gonna, I think it's an idea worth merit. I think it's worth discussion. It would certainly help offset costs, but you're also going to get, well, my kid doesn't go to dances.
Right.
My student doesn't do this. Why do I have to pay it?
So what is the penalty, I guess, if they don't pay it?
If they don't pay it, then they would be prohibited from going to attending certain events. Is that?
Yeah, just like any other unpaid.
But wouldn't
No,
the
it
student
comes due,
fees
they
be
wouldn't.
part of registration though? Wouldn't that be part of registration?
Isn't it, aren't we essentially just increase in registration costs?
Yeah, that's what we're
You
doing.
could, yes. The other way you could do it is, since this is going to go into the high school class fund, it would be easier for them to do it a second payment to, now, for us, it would be easier. For the parent, it would be, we certainly give them the option of paying the whole thing in one lump sum, and then we'd have to divide it out. But for simplicity's sake, it would be easier to do the 115 to the district and then the 35 to the school, or whatever.
To me, it makes better sense to have it included. Like that's like when you have the breakdown of fees, that fee is it's just broken down, but it's the total of registration costs.
Yeah.
That
Makes it
that
easier
would be,
to swallow.
yeah, I mean, as a parent, thinking about a parent paying.
What's registration right now?
115 at the high school, 100 at the junior high, and 75 at Northside and Southside.
Less than $1 a day for registration.
That would be my thought.
So is the board interested in further discussion of an increase in the fee at the high school or the district-wide?
So where does the money go towards exactly?
For this
Yes.
proposal, it would go into the class
For their
funds.
activities.
And it's really, then
Yeah.
for homecoming float supplies.
Yeah, that's fine.
For prom, those types of things that come up and that they normally fundraiser for, but the idea is the fundraisers,
So are we just gonna cut out the fundraising totally then, or?
not necessarily, there'll still be an option for there, but there's so many fundraisers going around, just to try to eliminate one more of those.
So would this mean they wouldn't have to fundraise for prom, or would they still need to be doing?
Classes could still fundraise if they choose, and there's
Okay.
others, they work at concession stands and such.
Okay.
But You'll have people
do.
volunteering for those types of positions, so they're not getting those monies into those classes.
So years
There's
ago,
still
they-
those options that are out there, but this is a way to ensure that we have.
There's a
the funds
softball
for
class
prom.
fundraiser where they would sell Fannie Mae candies, or they would do other types of things that could still be an option. But if you were collecting $2,000 a year in class dues, by the time you got to your junior
Yeah.
year, you've got $6,000 in the bank for prom or whatever you
As
know.
long as we think through how that money's split ahead of time, we don't just like throw in the money and then throw it in a big pot, and like, how is it really gonna be split up, so. at
So
the
you
end-
have accounts for each class?
Each class is-
Yes.
Yeah, how much, right now, you have one account for each class, and then that covers prom, homecoming,
Well,
and everything else.
yeah, those things like,
Whatever money is left over is either usually done as a gift, you might, donation from the bench. Excuse me, excuse me, a memorial or those types of things, so.
Money is usually controlled by a student government, right?
It is until they're done with it, and if they don't, so what we've done in the past is if a graduating class doesn't say how they would like it used, it's rolled over and given as seed money to the next incoming class.
And that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to item D, early graduation request.
The motion is that the Board of Education approves the early graduation request of student number 985017062.
Okay, need a motion?
So,
I'll second. Do we roll call this or just,
I see no reason to deny this.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to certified staff.
So we'll do these individually. The first motion is the Board of Education approves the hiring of Chelsea Eads as head softball coach at Morrison High School for the 2023-2024 school year.
Need a motion?
So moved.
second,
Roll call?
Graham,
Yes.
Piolson,
yes.
Brombo,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes.
And the second motion is the Board of Education approves the hiring of Nathan Vandermight as head football coach at Morrison High School for the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay, need a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call?
Piolson,
yes.
Brombo,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Sam Hunt,
Yes.
Lucky.
Yes. Okay, alrighty. To make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll keep these out. Those-
You want the folders back?
I do, yes. I